And when I looked at the title, which is 66 to the new 26.2, for those who are not in the running community, do you know what that refers to? The running community is not allowed to answer this question.
Marathon distance in miles?
Yes, marathon distance in miles, that's right. And you were cheating. That's not fair, but okay. Anyway, so Sunil and I actually go back many years, 42 years, something like that.
Maths has improved.
Huh? My maths has improved. And I was asked to be the interlocutor, and I had to look it up. But basically it means we're going to have a conversation and a dialogue. And it's more a dialogue, but do keep your questions ready because we do want it to be more interactive than a one-way talk, right? Now, ever since I've known Sunil, he's always been into sports. He was a national level squash player, but somewhere along the way, he lost his way and moved into running, right? And so in 91, 92, I remember, we both joined the Hash House Harriers, which was really, I joined it because we used to go out into the countryside and run, and I'd like getting out into the countryside, and for the children it was a good outing, and you joined it because there was beer at the end of it all, right?
And I'm consistent about that. Yeah, that hasn't changed.
All right, so now tell us, how did you get into running?
Basically because of the Hash. I mean, the Hash House Harriers, it's called a drinking club with a running problem. It's a club which is in about 160 countries, 1,500 cities, and it's not serious runners. And that's how I just got into it. In fact, somebody, a common friend of ours said, come along for the Hash runs. I said, I'm not a runner. But that's what got me there. And of course, I stayed there because the beer was always cold at the end.
No, but I mean, I have watched you. You progressed beyond that, while the rest of us did stay behind, and moved into fairly serious running. So before we get into the Antarctica and the 7 marathons, I do want to talk about your journey. So take us through your journey and how did you get into the marathons and, some of your accomplishments.
So I think, some of the Hash, over the years, there were a few good runners who came in, some expats and some other locals, good runners who came in to the Hash. And then at one stage, they said, why don't we do a longer run? And so we did a few longer runs. And then I think it was in 2003 when they said we do a half marathon. And
yes,
I did not know what a marathon was at that time. So then somebody says 21K, and I said, it's too far. But he said, go and register, you're good. So I went and registered for that half marathon, and I finished it. And this is typically on trail somewhere out in the, at that time it was 15 or 20 kilometers out of the city. Now probably have to go 50 kilometers to get that type of trail with no traffic. So they did a half marathon, and then they got ambitious and said, let's do a full marathon. I think this is 2003. Mm-hmm. And okay, what the heck, let's register. And I ran, walked, crawled, finished, and that was my debut marathon, 2003. And then, that's how I got into this. And those days, there was no question of training. In fact, we were running in dry fit t-shirts didn't exist.
You didn't do any stretching?
There was no stretching, no strength training, nothing. In fact, I was running in my old squash shoes at that time.
I was running in Bata shoes.
Yeah, so that's how it started. And then 2 years, 2005, there was I think the first Bangalore marathon. It was Lipton's Bangalore Marathon. And so I registered for that and ran that. Again, no real training. There was nobody, no coaches, nobody around that time. And the same Bangalore Marathon happened in 2006. And so that's how I got started. And about that 2006-07, and some of the runners, you could correct me with the days, exact year, but I think at that time there was a group formed in Bangalore called Runners for Life. And that's when many of us got together. I've got many friends here who've been running from that time itself. And that's when it got a little more organized. They started doing fortnightly runs. We got to meet better runners. And also, at that time, for the first time, I got introduced to, this thing of doing other things beyond running for training. So there was a sports medicine doctor and a very good runner, Dr. Rajat Chauhan, who many people here know, who moved here to set up what was probably one of the first sports medicine centers in the city, in that time in Manipal Hospital. And I remember when Rajat said, don't you do any strength training? And I said, what's that? So he said, come and see me tomorrow, or day after, whatever. And so I landed up there wearing a pair of jeans. And he said, what the heck are you doing? You're wearing a pair of jeans. I didn't know what this was. But that's how I got introduced to, for the first time, I think 2007 or 2008,
Manipal,
to strength training, the need to do additional things. And it just should have come to me, the common sense to do things, because as a sportsman, and there are many great sportsmen here, I think one of the things is that you get fit to play a sport. You don't play a sport to get fit. And for running, I was doing the opposite, just running. So that's when life changed. Things became, I got a little more involved with running. I think 2007 was the first time I went to a race outside the city, the Bombay Marathon, which is the flagship event of running in India, and which now, I've been running almost every year since 2007. And that's also Runners for Life, this group. That's the year when they started introducing other races, and in fact, quite crazy, from just about starting a marathon in 2007, they did what was then India's first ultra marathon. And
what was our cycling trail, actually?
Yes, in Hesalghata.
And it was Madhu who introduced us to ultra.
Who was a great ultra runner who had moved back from the US. And so I registered for that. So in 2000...
For the audience that aren't runners, ultra is anything above more than a marathon. So it's more than 42 kilometers. If you think 42 kilometers is mad enough, it's 50, 75, and 100 kilometers. So those were good years for running, because I was training with the Rajat and I was running well. RF, the Runners for Life group, with them, there were a lot of peers to run with. So I landed up in the first challenge. In 2007, they had different distances, and in fact, the shortest of the ultra was 52. They had a 78 and 104. So I did the 52 km in 2007. And those were really good years of running. And then 2008, I went to the next level at the ultra. Did a few marathons. I did the next level. I did the 75 km, and Naveen was there with me. Yes, and then 2009 was when I did the. This is me doing the 100K. 100 km, and this was in 2009 when I was finishing the 100 km. I must say that in those days, ultras were so new to India that people like us were like a rare breed. It's come such a long way, and I can talk about that later. But there were hardly any people there. Nobody knew what this was. You didn't know enough about nutrition. But people like you did it. Just fabulous. So pushed themselves and went to 100K. All right.
So, and again, that spell continued for another 2 years. I had, a lot of good races. And then I heard by accident about this amazing race in South Africa called the Ultimate Human Race. It's called Comrades. And Comrades is a race which was set up, I think, the first time in 1914 by Vic Lapham, who was an army officer, and he lost colleagues in the World War. And he said, I want to do something to commemorate them. And instead of a plaque or a statue or something, I'll do something physical. So he did this race which is between two cities in South Africa, Durban, which is at sea level, and Pietermaritzburg, which is at 2,500 feet. Pietermaritzburg, for those who don't know or don't remember from history, it's the city where Gandhiji was thrown off the train. So there were two historic cities. Yeah. And it's a race between the two cities, 1 year in one direction and the other year in the reverse direction. When I registered for it, I was hardly anybody from India had run this race. I did not know the difference between what was the race going in one direction, Durban to Pietermaritzburg, and the race in the other direction. And I just wrote to a friend of mine in South Africa saying, I'm coming to South Africa and registered for this race. And he said, great, but you're doing the uprun. So I said, what's that? I didn't know. I really honestly didn't know, because nobody at that time, I don't think anybody from India had finished the uprun. In 2010, the year before that, a few people I knew had done the race. I didn't know this up and down run, but it was the down run in 2010. And so he said, you're doing the uprun, that's tougher. So I said, okay, what the heck, I've registered, I've booked my tickets, I'm going to land up. And so landed up really nervous going there. And my runner friends know that the most dreaded thing is something called DNF, did not finish. The Comrades has a strict cutoff. Most races you can finish whatever time. Comrades had a strict cutoff of 12 hours. And also it is, the way they start the races is the faster runners start in front and slower runners at the back. That's the way they start the races. In most races, your timing starts from when you cross the mat. You have a chip and it starts from then. Comrade starts from when the gun goes, when the first runner starts. So for most of us slower runners, we start...
You're at a disadvantage already.
We're at a disadvantage. We're slow and we're at a disadvantage already, 10 to 15 minutes. And it was, a hell of a challenge. For the thing I said, whatever happens, I'm just going to keep moving forward. And I just pushed. I did struggle. I had bad cramps. I had broken toenails, bleeding. But it's such an amazing race with so many people just pushing you on, the crowds pushing you on. It's, for South Africa, the equivalent of the Tour de France. Spectators all along the way. It's one town to another. Spectators all along the way, runners.
For those who don't know it, Tour de France is the greatest cycling race ever. You can tell that I'm a cyclist also, so yes. I'd like to move on,
sure,
because I'm looking at time also.
Sure. So that's me. I've finished it with about 7 minutes to spare on the.
Amazing. 77 already.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, from what I remember, after this, there was what I would call a dry period. And you didn't do very much, or you were faffing around and not actually doing anything more. What happened? I mean, I want you to talk about that.
So two things happened. First, when I finished Comrades, which
or had you thought that this was the ultimate?
Yes, so that was one thing, which is, when you've achieved a goal which was so far out, which you didn't know, and in fact, when I say 29th May, it was Bobby's birthday, and it's when he reminded me about that. But I was flat, really. You've achieved something, and I didn't know what would be my next goal. And I really, for many months, I was just quite flat. And at that time, somehow about 4 or 5 months later, I got inspired by going for a talk by a New Zealander who was here, who was the first double amputee to climb Everest. And when I spoke to him, I got inspired, and he spoke about his journey, the lows, and that just said, get back. But then I had another setback, which was from 2012 onwards, I started suffering from a problem with my Achilles. And runners will tell you that the Achilles heel or Achilles tendonitis is the worst thing you can possibly have. I hadn't torn it, I hadn't, strained it or anything. It's just years of overuse. And I've worked quite hard with various physios towards it. So for the next 4 or 5 years, while I did run, it was a struggle. I couldn't train properly. And
Is that when you got into strength training and physio and things like that? I mean, what did you do to recover from that?
well, strength training was happening right through. So, but a lot of physio, and I went to different physios across the country. Things worked up to a point and came down, up and down. It was very frustrating and depressing, I would say, because just as you thought you were getting better, there'd be a setback. And in fact, I remember one year at the Bombay Marathon. Till the morning of the race, I was not sure whether I would run. It was that thing. And then Rajat was there, Rajat Chauhan was there, and he tipped me up, gave me some support, and he said, okay, go see how you see. So it wasn't something that I was happy about. It was extremely frustrating, but I did work very, very hard with the physios, and I was quite determined to come back. It would have been easy to give up, but I was just determined that I would, give it a go. And fortunately, I came through it.
Okay. And therefore, tell me, post your dry period, and you actually then, was it 2018 that you restarted everything? 2017, 18?
Yeah, 2018,
right?
things started.
Which is also when you turned 60, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
So my question to you is, and in our Indian culture, 60 is where people do Shashti Purti, and it says, you have a half-life, and you go to Vanvas and things like that, right? No, I mean, there is a lot of ageism in our culture. There is, right? And especially for women, I mean, I can tell you that you're expected to sort of not be doing very much more, especially after you've had kids. So talk to me about that, in terms of, there is overall culture of, now you can do, well, I'm not saying Vanvas, but you can sort of relax, and you're now 60, etc. So, A, what motivated you? 2, talk about others that you may know who were also doing similar stuff.
I'm talking to one person when did you do the tour of Nilgiris? This crazy cycle race which goes through, how many days and all.
A bunch of other people.
But there's, so here's a case of somebody who carried on through that. But I want to point, show there's a person here who's inspired me. Kumar, please stand up. Kumar. Kumar has done some amazing, he's a far superior runner to me. Unassuming guy, he doesn't, but he's done, all types of marathons all over the world. He's an amazing runner. And there have been many others who've been like him, who've inspired me. So I've got to give you a couple of examples here. Mm-hmm. So here's a person who some of you may have heard of, Fauja Singh, who lives in London. I happened to had a chance to meet him about 10 years ago. Amazing guy. He started running at the age of 89. He ran his first marathon at the age of 89. And I don't know whether you can read that ad. He was the poster boy for Adidas. And he improved his timing by almost 40 minutes from the age of between 89 and 92. And the ad says that by the time he's 100, the Kenyans have no chance. Something of that. But here's somebody at 89.
That's true.
And I want to just show you one more person who I met recently. 77 years old, and she's done she has an amazing journey of many marathons, but one of the things she's done is 8 marathons in 8 continents, supposedly 8 continents, in 8 days. And she's 77 years old.
Wow. All right. Now, one question before we actually move into what the audience is waiting for, your thing, is how do you train? I mean, physically, how do you train nutritionally, and in these long runs, what do you think about? Murakami has written a book saying, "What do I talk about when I talk about running?" And Nayad, who's a swimmer who swam at age 64 from Miami to Florida. That's 177 kilometers nonstop. She had a whole playlist in her head. So she would just sing, memorize the song, and she can't sing because you're swimming, but that's the way she went. What do you do for all these things?
One of the things I try to do is to enjoy my runs. I don't have music. I've never run with music. I just go when I'm running, and especially in a race where you know people, or even on the big races you don't know people. Just try talking to the people next to you, cheer them on, wave to them. See what's happening around you. Enjoy it. In the big marathons, they have bands and various people cheering you on. I get a lot of energy from that. When I'm training, sometimes it's alone, and what I try to do is that set myself a goal. So then I'm, focused on just getting that goal. So like if I'm on an exercise bike, I'll say I want to try and do so many kilometers today or something. I set a goal for myself, and that keeps me going. I see people who come to the gym and they've got music and things. I'm not like that.
You're enjoying the whole run itself.
I'm enjoying
really
the
nice.
run. I'm enjoying the process.
Okay, and I forgot. I wanted to talk about your 6 majors and then quickly go to Antarctica, but I wanted nutrition too. So go in any order that you want.
I'll come to that in a bit. So before the 6 majors, this was another goal. When I said goal, I said I want to do these marathons. So I had this goal of running the Everest Base Camp Marathon, which I did in 22 again.
Post-pandemic, I thought.
Yeah. Again, Bobby, your birthday again. It was lucky for me. And then I had this goal of completing the 6 world majors, and Kumar had done it long before me and much faster than me. Kumar, take a bow. So this is me finishing the 6 majors, the 6 majors being the 6 biggest marathons in the world, which is New York, Chicago, Boston, London, Berlin, and Tokyo. And when we finished in Tokyo, it was quite a crazy year because with the pandemic, the Tokyo Marathon hadn't been held for 3 years. So that year there were a record of, I think, about 3,000 people who got their 6th major medal there. And that's out of now 10,000. So 3,000 got it in that year. So that was a huge goal for me. And then I had set that goal. In fact, we were talking about at the Everest Base Camp Marathon. You asked me the question, and I said this was my goal.
Right.
And then I said, that's it, maybe.
Yeah.
And then that was a goal, and I was very happy with that at that stage. Now, you asked about a very important question about nutrition. This is my best nutrition, because carbs.
Take it seriously. For anybody wanting to train, this is not the only thing you're doing.
But at least it's a good goal, So, but yes, to be honest, I'm not very particular about nutrition. I don't go on any diets and all those. A couple of days before a race, a marathon, I wouldn't be consuming alcohol more because of staying hydrated, because I do have a tendency to get quite dehydrated. And a few days before will be a little extra, carbs in the form of pastas, which are, slow release, so they help. So that's the only nutrition. And as far as training, I think this is something which is ongoing. I like to exercise. It's not, I don't take this as a chore that I have to think. If I'm doing a specific race, like when I did Comrades, I had to do specific type of training and all that was built up. But normally exercise is part of life for me, and I, in any case, would work out at least 5 times a week. So.
Okay, now I want to come to what we've all been waiting for, which is really, how did you think about the 7 continents? And then I want you to talk about your experience in Antarctica and Chile.
So as I said, when I finished the Tokyo Marathon, which is March last year, I didn't have another goal at that stage. And sometime after that, there was this talk about Sydney becoming a possible major, and they said that, look, if you come and run the Sydney Marathon, then when and if it becomes a major, you'll get an automatic entry. So just to let you know, getting into, Ken Kumar and others will tell me that just getting into a major marathon is not easy. So it was one of my goals was, okay, I'll go and run. And it was really literally a marathon in the middle of a holiday. And so I registered for the Sydney Marathon, which was in September last year, and it was a tough marathon because it was a very hot day. So I finished the Sydney Marathon in September. And that stage, okay, now done 5 because the 6 majors gives you 3. Comrades was the 4th in Africa. The 5th was Australia. And that's when I said, okay, hey, now why not the other 2? So then I started researching and I said, South America and Antarctica is just so far away, and that I looked for somebody who would give me a chance to do a 2-in-1. So
I mean, most people would be satisfied with doing one, I think.
Yeah, but I just said the journey is so long, and I think, and then I found somebody who was doing a double header, which is Antarctica and Chile, and I registered for that, and so that's when it happened, and then. For the next few months, amongst other things, I spoke with friends who had done the 7 continents and specifically run in Antarctica to check about the gear, weather, what to do, what sort of training. Main thing was I got the right gear for running in Antarctica. And so that's how
Could you expand on this whole journey a little bit?
Yeah, so that's how it started.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, Antarctica is right down there. And to get there, you would wonder why I could go north and come down all the way there. There's not too many flights that go to Chile. So if you look at most airlines, and they would take you take Emirates, which would have made more sense to go through Dubai. But I would have gone Bangalore, Dubai, Sao Paulo, and then change airlines and go to Santiago. And one of my fears was that a miss of connection, or more. The other thing is my bags don't connect. I'm doomed because so I wanted to choose an airline which would give me only one stop to Santiago, and that's how I went on Orchids.
Okay.
And then got to Santiago, then you have to go way down south to a place called Punta Arenas, which is right down at the bottom of Chile, and from there you go to Antarctica. So it's a very long journey. So I think that's just in the end. And so our run was in one of the islands of Antarctica called King George Island, and that's the base to get there is from Punta Arenas in Chile. So we got we got to Antarctica or to Punta Arenas. Now before we got to Punta Arenas, and then we had a briefing with the organizers, and that's when I really realized the uncertainty of Antarctica. So they told us like about 10 years ago, they took the group there, and they started the race, and about 4 hours into the race, they were told, storm coming, everybody has to evacuate. So they couldn't finish the race, and they had to go back. And 2 years ago, something similar happened. They at the last minute, didn't get permission to go to Antarctica. So people got all the way to Punta Arenas and came back. So the uncertainty of Antarctica.
Also, wasn't it that when Gurmeet and Arun did it, they got stuck for a week in Antarctica and couldn't come back?
Yes.
So that can also happen.
Yeah. So this huge uncertainty of getting there and getting back. And in fact, the organizer said, don't celebrate till you're back in Chile. So, that's the uncertainty. So I was really nervous about, not just the race, but about just getting there. When we were told, and I'm now, we had a briefing on 21st of Jan, and we were told we're going to fly 22nd Jan in the evening. There were other restrictions I won't go into now, but go 22nd evening, spend the night at a Russian base, run on 23rd and come back 23rd evening. This is on 21st evening. So we're all set for that. 22nd morning, we are told that, hey, there's a big storm coming on 23rd afternoon. We're going to fly in the evening, get onto the aircraft in your running gear, and you're going to run virtually straight, get off the aircraft and run. And we're going to get back, so we have to leave by about noon the next day. So that's what we did. So I was expecting this to really be the white continent. It was not white everywhere, but there was a lot of snow everywhere.
In fact, I questioned you, right? I said, are you really at Antarctica? He sent photographs, he sent videos, and I said, are you really at Antarctica? And he said, don't trust me? And I said, no, not really. This could be somewhere else.
Yeah, but there was because this year there were also additional restrictions because of avian flu. So they restricted the areas we could run in. In fact, these organizers had a group who was coming to do a triathlon there. Yes, there are people who swim in that. But at the last minute, the government said, no way, no going to the water. You can't go even within 15 meters of the water because of potential avian flu from the penguins. So they changed the route altogether. And yes, I did not run on snow, but they put a trail which I did not expect at all, or none of us expected, which was felt like a lunar surface, and it was, this is the sort of trail we're running on. This melted snow, running through this. This was and because of restrictions, it was 1 kilometer out, 1 kilometer back. So 21 loops of that, which in a way was good because, you at least kept meeting people, because it's a small group, 35 people. Otherwise, it could have been really challenging. And we started the run at 9 p.m. It got dark at 11. So we ran from about 11 to 2 a.m. was in darkness with headlamps on this sort of a trail, which had the runners will recognize what the challenge is that the net total elevation gain was about 1,000 meters, which is quite significant for a marathon. You can look, it doesn't look like somebody wants to be running a marathon, but I had many, many layers, and that's eventually, after many, many hours, and for the first time having run from dusk to dawn ever, and I managed to.
And slowly at that, actually.
Yeah, it took me just under 7 hours, but on that trail, I don't think I could do much better. At night especially, you're just watching every step. But we all did it, and that's us at the finish.
Talk to me about the conditions there, because you talked about how hard it was, but you also talked about the wind, etc.
So the wind, actually, in Antarctica was not as bad as I expected. As in Chile. But what did happen was at night when it was dark, we had ground fog. And one of the big challenges I had, and runners with glasses will know, glasses getting fogged up.
Yeah.
My nose was like waterworks, and I'm wearing gloves. No, try handling that. It wasn't easy, but it's same conditions for everybody there. So it's not. I'm not making an excuse or anything. We were out there to try and finish, and I said, look, I'm going to stay on my feet. Just keep going. And because we kept meeting runners coming up and down, it was good fun, and we had a great time. So. And we spent a few hours in Antarctica. This was in the Russian church. And of course, the penguins thought we were crazy, and that's proof that I was there. You had doubts?
Yeah, I had doubts, but yeah, this proves it. Okay, and then you went back to Chile and ran, 2 days later?
Yeah, but we recovered really well. This is the southernmost brewery in the world in Punta Arenas. So this is carb loading to recover. So we were well recovered, So,
talk about nutrition.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And the thing about Chile, if you're talking about winds, Punta Arenas is right at the tip, right at the bottom. And if you know, there are two things of the area. One is the Straits of Magellan, which are known to be really choppy seas. And you're facing the Drake's Passage, which is where a lot of people go to Antarctica, go on the infamous Drake's Passage, the choppiest seas in the world. So,
I'm not being able to press it.
oops, sorry.
No, same thing happened.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, okay, carry on.
So we have, on some days, the winds were 80 kilometers an hour. And a person like me, it's not small, I was being pushed back by the winds. And the run was along the seafront, so you don't know what to expect with those winds. And I mean, I have never, in any place, I've been even in the Everest Base camp or been other treks, I've never faced those type of winds, which it really pushes you. But on other days, the same place was like this, in a deceptive calm. You don't know what to expect with the weather, but also there's a deceptive calm. 1 hour later, it could be really windy. So that run is, while it was not the challenge of Antarctica, it was 3 days after. So we ran in Antarctica from 22nd night to 23rd morning. I finished at about 4 a.m. on 23rd. This run was at 7 a.m. on the 26th.
And this is not the average runner just, after a marathon does what they call a recovery run, which is a slow, 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer. Our man goes off and does another marathon.
That come a long way,
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the 3 experience.
So this is at the start. It was a sunny day. It wasn't raining, which was nice. And it was a race this was 3.5 kilometers out along the sea face on the cycling track, which you would have loved, and 3.5 back, so it was, just over 3.5, so 6 loops of that. And again, a good thing was like going up and down, keep meeting your runners who now become friends. The first half was quite easy because there was not much wind, because we didn't know what really, as I said, we didn't know what to expect. But the second half, the winds picked up to about 40 kilometers an hour. And they were not just headwinds, because if you got headwinds, then coming back you get tailwinds. They were crosswinds, which really throw you. And so it did affect all of us. But I didn't know what to expect. First time I'm doing a marathon 3 days after another one. I really didn't know what to expect. I said, let me go. And I told myself, I don't care, I'll walk, but I'll finish. This was my 7th. And I was feeling good. I was very happy. It was a very good frame of mind, and just having a lot of fun. And I surprised myself in the first half, where the weather was not unfavorable to do, and some runners friends who know it. I managed the first half in 2 hours 3 minutes, which I never expected. I was thinking this is going to be a 6-hour marathon. The second half, with the winds, all of us were slowed. And I was also tiring, but I just plugged on. Mm-hmm. And, I managed to get to the finish, and I don't know whether this will play. I hope this does. No.
Press it now?
No.
It's not working.
No, sorry, that doesn't play, but it was earlier, but I don't know why. But I did manage to get through and finish, and I surprised myself at the time of, I think, 4:37, it was a goal achieved.
And he just says it, lightly.
Well, there are so many people I feel who've done so much more and just push themselves in different fields, and it's a humbling experience.
And I'm going to open this up for questions in about 2 minutes, so keep your questions ready. There is somebody with a mic who'll go along, but I had a few more questions for you.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry, you have something more? Most people put other things on their CV, but yeah, this is like brilliant. No, wait.
Sure.
Okay. Can we go back? Yeah, I was going to ask you this question, which was basically that what is your mantra basically overall? Because, so 2 related questions. One is that what is the mantra that you follow? Because there are life lessons here. It's not just about running, right? There are life lessons here. And so I want to hear from you, what are your life lessons or mantras that you follow?
See, I think the one thing I think is for me was important is that I must enjoy the journey. If you enjoy the journey, you'll reach the end. If you don't enjoy the journey, then every time you go for a training run, you're going to be cursing, you're going to be saying, I don't like this. But I really enjoyed the journey. The second thing is that I like to take on challenges which are different. In which I want to surprise myself, and see if I can go and get it. And nobody's told me to do these things; these are all self-driven. And I think that I believe that everybody here is capable of surprising themselves with something which they right now think they can't do. But you have to work towards it, and you must enjoy that. If you do, you won't work towards it not consistently if you don't enjoy the journey. So like when I said training, I enjoy that. I enjoy exercise. And so that's why it's not a chore to land up to go for a run, So.
Which is brilliant. And therefore, so I'm also hearing, I'm actually changing it to my mantras, also adding mine in, which is never give up. You're never too old to start something new. And while it seems like a solitary achievement, it's actually a team sport, right? So what's been your support structure? Have you had any?
No, when you say support structure in terms of coaches, I've never had a coach. I've never run with a coach. Maybe for strength training for a while, but I run solo, and I'm probably too indisciplined to run with a coach. Because I like doing my own thing. And I've said this before, that for me, having a good time is more important than getting a good time in a run. And that keeps me going.
And I think you should thank that person sitting there who's been supporting you all the way through. Right? Without family support, it doesn't work. So I had to bring that up. Okay, I have lots of other questions that I want to ask, but I'm mindful of time.
Before that, I'm going to tell you, this is something which I said, this has been...
Which was your mantra?
This has been,
there you are.
Yeah, this is something I really...
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
And if you could keep your questions short, and if you could stand up so we can see you, and keep it short.
Let's put this off.
Hi, good evening. It's a very aspirational CV, so thank you very much. My question was, when you're running these full marathons, you've got 4, 5, 6 hours, you're on your own, just to yourself. Do you listen to music? What kind of thoughts really come along? Because it's a lot of time you spend just being alone with you.
So I think I mentioned before, I've never run with music. So the lonely times are training. During a marathon, you're meeting people, there's a lot of people running there, so you enjoy their company. In fact, when I was running Comrades in South Africa, I was running these good South African runners, and we were talking about cricket and other things, So you get chatting and you get distracted and you enjoy yourself. But in training, it's that, especially when you're training for doing a longish run, say running 2 hours alone, that time it can get lonely. And then I try and set myself some goals of, how much I want to do, what type of trail I want to run on. I set it for myself, but no music. And if I'm running outdoors and usually countryside if I can, I'm just enjoying the scenery, enjoying everything around me.
Hey, Sunil, once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're a big inspiration for many runners, particularly beginners like me. One question I wanted to ask you was something that doesn't come out in the conversation today is your extreme interest in supporting runs in general. I have seen you miss running and creating a record for yourself many times and take up pacer work and support many people to run in those races, because I'm sure that given a choice, you would have liked to run in that race yourself. But you have opted for, and I felt great joy in when you communicate, I'm a pacer in this. So that is one. And many people here may not know that we had a great IIM get-together in Kashmir for about 10 days. It was a very well orchestrated time. But Sunil chose to miss it in order to go and run with another classmate of ours who was running first time full marathon in New York City. So the question I have for you is, what gives you equal amount of happiness in doing these things? What drives you?
Excellent question, and broaden that to, he also supports a lot of, in the community. He has done a lot of philanthropy in that space also. So combine both and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I think, see, for me, I enjoy sports. Sports is in my blood. So I've been lucky to have, had many years, fun years with sport. So giving back is, if you call that a giving back, actually, I don't even call it as giving back. It gives me great joy to see somebody finishing a run, if I can help them get a better timing, and that's what a pacer's job is. It's more joy than me getting a personal best. It's so much nicer to see that. And it's just I love sport, and it comes naturally. It's nothing extra for me.
But just to do it so humbly, the ultra that you supported, where you called yourself a paniwala, but actually you were just awake for 24 hours supporting them. And I've read the testimony of those people. They couldn't have done it without you. Or the scholarship that you've done for sports in your alma mater. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, again, it's okay. The reason
He's desperately trying not to talk about it.
the reason I've put up this scholarship at the IIM was that when we were in Sataj and all my other friends, classmates here will vouch for this. When we were there, if we were playing sport, they would almost pick on us the next day in class and say, "Look, you had time to play sport, but you didn't have time to prepare for the class," sort of thing. And I've always believed that all-rounders and sports persons amongst them make better managers, better humans, because they have an interest beyond work. And let me talk about sport in particular. I mean, look at how much it could benefit a company. A person who's a sportsman is disciplined, has a passion, wants to get better.
Sports person,
yeah. Okay, sports person, yes. Yeah, correct. But he or she realizes that they cannot stay at the top for long. Somebody better is going to get there. You need to try and keep improving your game. And you will lose, and you have to learn from losses, and that's a huge thing to learn in business. You become team players because you realize you're dependent on various people. And you're dependent then on people who are not just people who are necessarily better runners or sports persons. They take a coach. Often a coach is not as good a sports person as the person himself or herself. But there's so much to learn. So this thing of learning about being humble. I mean today, even now, after all these runs, any marathon I go for, I'm humbled.
Because they're better.
This not just better, but I know there's a challenge there. I can't land up. I can't just say I'm going to land up and run a marathon. I have to be ready for it. So there's no thing. I can't sit back and say I've run for so many years, I'm going to land up and run. There's so much to learn for this and for management. So I've honestly believed that, sports people will become better managers, and that's why I set up this.
No, I agree with you, because even in my corporate career, I've noticed that there's a spillover for people who are sports people. They make far better leaders, and I think in addition to all the points that you made, it's also discipline. They bring the discipline into the work environment, and it's excellent to have. So that's why you set up
and focus.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, one more question there. Oh, here. Okay.
Good evening to everyone. I'm Surya here. It's inspiration and motivational to be part of this audience. I wish to know, there's a saying that everyone knows that...
Could you hold the mic closer to you? Yeah, thank you.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
the journey counts more than the destination is a normal term. In marathon, I have not participated in any marathon till now, but I intend to. Most of the marathon runners, when they join, do they look at finishing the marathon or winning the marathon? Which part motivates? Thank you.
Actually, it's a very good question. One of the beauties of the marathon is that it is probably one of the few what we call participative sports. Most of the sports are spectator sports. You go to watch tennis, watch cricket. In a marathon, whether you're Kiptum or Kipchoge who does it in 2 hours, 1 minute, or somebody who does it in 6 hours, when you finish, you're a winner. And everybody, and for each person who's participating, there's a lot of people who are following, family, friends who are following. So it's a huge participative sport. And I think that most of us are not thinking so much about time. We are amateur runners. We're running for fun. And yes, there are some superb runners here in this city, but we're still amateur runners. And we're just having a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for the session. It's really inspiring. I was wondering if you could speak to the small things in your running routine on like a perfect day. So for example, when would you like to wake up? Would you have coffee? What would you like to eat? Are there like some specific shoes that you're attached to or just things like that?
Okay, I'll let you into a secret. I don't have a beer before I start a run. So not usually, but no. But I'm a morning person. Most of my workouts in the morning. And depending on what I'm training for, if I'm in training, I try and adapt, for that. For example, if there's a run which is going to have a fair amount of hills, then you try and incorporate that into your training. So it depends on that. And you try and sometimes, like for Antarctica, it was like trying to get used to the gear that you're going to be running. Or when I run and Everest, it was getting used to the gear, getting used to the shoes, which you don't normally run in. So you can't land up with new shoes on those 2 days, So you train for that. So, but the journey is important because I think and there are many marathoners here, but I think I would say that for any marathon, you would put in anything between, before any marathon, about 80 to 120 hours of work for 3-4 months before. So that's the sort of, effort that goes into it. Not just running, it's strength training, stretching, everything put together.
After that, we'll come here.
Hello. All right. Hi. Quick question. Have you ever had a moment throughout your entire years of running where you felt like, I cannot do this, or you felt like giving up? Maybe it's in the middle of running, maybe it's anywhere, maybe it's throughout one of your training sessions, and you're like, hey, this is getting a little bit overwhelming at that point of time. So if you've had a moment where you felt like, abhi bas ho gaya, how have you recovered from that, or how have you like gone back to it and said, no, I'm going to continue doing this, and I'm going to continue again?
So I don't think I've ever felt like giving up, but it was the years when I had my Achilles injury were extremely frustrating. And I was going from one place to another, trying to find a solution, did various things. Some of them were not very comfortable, quite painful treatments. I was just determined to try and get back, because I enjoyed my running. So I don't think I was ever came close to giving up because of the injury. There have been a couple of runs which were very, very challenging. And I think 2018, I was running the London Marathon, and it was the hottest London Marathon on record. Now, you think going from India, you don't feel the heat there, but in India, most of our marathons start at 5 and 6 in the morning, and you finish by 10:30. The London Marathon for us, we started at about 10:30 or 11, and we were in the sun for about almost an hour and a half to waiting before that. And midway through the run, I was just not feeling good. I was quite dehydrated, my blood pressure dropped. I said, let me sit for 2 minutes, hydrate, and come back. Next thing I knew, I was flat on the ground for an hour. cramping, and I said, should I really give up? And I got up and I said, what do I do? To give up meant I would have had to go catch an underground which was crowded, which is the last thing you want to do when you're feeling like that. So I said, let me try and walk a bit. I walked, crawled, and I managed to get to the finish line. But it was at that stage, I did think that possibly, maybe I should pull out, but I did pull through with great difficulty, though.
Please wait for the mic. And there was somebody else who'd raised their hands there.
There was this person who came last in the Olympic sailing, and I had to interview him, and he was saying pretty much the same thing, that I just did it because I wanted to know what it felt like, But they went on to start the boating fiesta in India. But what he did say to me is, I'm lucky I didn't have corporate pressure. So I want to ask you, if you have managed to stand because you haven't allowed yourself to get pressurized by people pushing you into doing something.
I think in amateur sport, who's there to push you? I mean, if you're a professional sportsman and Olympics and all, yes, there are people going to push you. But if an amateur sportsman, you're doing it for yourself. It's not doing it to prove anything to anybody. So there's a difference there.
So since you handed the mic over to me,
You took it, I thought.
Like Fauja Singh, I plan to start at about 89. So when do you think I should start training?
Age or weight?
I'm already 89 on weight.
Then you can start.
So when do you think I should start training? About 2 years before that?
Yesterday.
There's an old saying which says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yeah.
So immediately after this talk, you can start. Yes.
Never know what I'll do tomorrow.
Hi. So, is the wall a myth or is it real, and how do you surmount that during your runs?
I don't think it's a myth, and there are many runners here who would tell you that. So the wall is, okay, just to tell you, in a marathon, there's this thing called the wall, which is at certain stages, typically it's around the 30-kilometer mark, where your body's trying to tell you no more, to stop. It's, so I think it is there. You go through a phase when you're hurting and you're not enjoying it for a bit. But I think if once you've run a few marathons, you know that it's going to come. And you got to just tell yourself, one foot in front of another, just keep going. And then you get a second wind and you keep going. But you will face it.
It's actually true for any endurance sport. In any endurance sport, there comes a time where you just cannot go on. And the term is a wall or whatever else. And then you just have to do 1 foot, one breath, and keep going.
What about the company where you were working? The bosses supported you, your colleagues, bosses, and what about the home front?
So I've only had one boss, which is at home. But because I haven't had a boss for a long time, been self-employed. So there's not been that type of pressure. So I've been master of my own time. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk something about the recovery plan, what you followed actually? It was a very inspiring talk anyway, yours. And the recovery plan, normally they say once you become old actually, and I'm 59 years old in the next few months. And so I've been running for quite some time, we can say around 4 years, 5 years like that. But once you become aged actually, the recovery cycle takes more time and all that. Can you just throw some light on that? It will help.
I believe you don't age from one day to another. So age is a number. If you're consistent, you're not going to feel this. What happens, I think, is that people are inconsistent. They stop, start. Then the older you get, it's harder to start, it's harder to train. But if you're consistent, it doesn't matter if you keep going from one year to another. The other thing that's with age is that recovery from injury takes longer. So that you need to work on much harder.
May I add something?
Yeah.
How do you feel how do you deal with the injuries actually? How to prevent, how to overcome, or what's the...
So I think consistency is important, the right type of training. So I think if I look at my injuries, it was largely because in the early years of sport, in the early years of sport, I had nobody to tell me about the importance of strength training and taking load of certain parts of the body. So people talk about running and it hurts your knees and ankles and all that. But if you strengthen your body the right way, there's chance of injury is much less. And so I've suffered because for many years of sport, I didn't have that support. Now this is all available. You can get it, and as long as you're consistent. And the thing about injuries or even wellness is keep at it before the injury comes. Don't wait for the injury to come, then do it.
Also listen to your body. No, but seriously, also listen to your body. And if you're in tune with your body, it'll tell you when you need to stop or when you need to work out a little less. But for that, you have to be very much in tune with your body.
Yeah, hi, Bobby here. I just thought, it would also be good if Kumar could have, many of these questions Kumar could have also answered, because he's also done an amazing job. So I don't know if it would be fine if he takes a minute and just talks on what he's accomplished.
Sure.
Any questions? In general, like he asked about recovery, he asked, so probably just your journey, you have done. So I'm, 75. I just...
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I just turned 75, and my last race was in Chicago, which, the Chicago Marathon in October, which was, I ran the World Championship, age group championship race. One of the problems I have is that in my age group, there is Gene Dyke, who runs a marathon in just about 3 hours and 12 minutes. So I end up competing with him. So once I was in Big Sur, I ran this Boston and Big Sur 6 days apart, and he was there both in Boston and Big Sur. So he was first in Boston with, 3 hours, something. And I was 18th with 3 hours and 59 minutes in Boston, 18th out of some 133 in my age group. But in Big Sur, he showed up again, and I met him at the start. He said, I'm just going to pace my daughter, so I'm taking it easy. And I also was taking it easy because it was my second race in 6 days. But he, was first and I was third.
Oh, wow.
But with a huge difference in time, he did it in 3 hours, 25 minutes, and mine was 4 hours, 2 minutes or something like that. So that's, so I've enjoyed, this has been an enjoyable journey for me, and Bobby knows when I was starting and we used to run into each other in Kapan Park. So I started, running at the age of 45, but actually jogging. But my first race was at the age of 60, a 10K in TCS.
So that's 10K. An inspiration right here for you.
And my first marathon was at the age of 64 in New York. And,
Thank you so much. This is, a real inspiration, Jen. Yes, question here. If someone could give the mic, please. And then after that at the back there, please.
Thank you. If you could wake up tomorrow morning and magically be transported to the start line of any of the races that you've been to in your running career, like which race would you want to relive and why?
I can't pick one, to be honest.
No, you have to pick
No, I know. I can't pick one.
Ask the question.
Three. Top three.
No, I'll give you three. Okay, I think certainly Comrades, because the atmosphere there is absolutely electric. Boston, because the history is the oldest one, and I choose London because I want to run it in better weather. So, and I'm not. This is not an excuse. Actually, I say this about runners like us. When we don't do well because of weather, we are not tough enough to beat the weather. The weather didn't beat us. We've got to be prepared for it. So I need to be better prepared for that.
Srilata.
Yeah. Sunil, small question. I noticed one thing.
Could you hold the mic closer?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've noticed one thing is that marathons, at least in India, very few women take part. Is that changing? Is there more women coming into it?
Thank you for asking that, because one of the things, not just in India, Srilata, and I'm going to answer part of it and then I'd like to answer the rest. Through time, if you notice, women have participated in sports far fewer numbers than men have. Is it genetics? Is it cultural? Is it safety reasons? Is it whatever it may be, right? I mean, in our journey, we were one of the few women, which I see now changing, but are you seeing a big shift?
Definitely.
Especially in the marathon world. So talk about that.
No, definitely.
Because I noticed in your photograph of the Antarctica one, there were lots of women. That was really amazing.
So it's certainly growing. So let me just talk about India, because and I'll tell you something about having spoken to some of the race organizers. There's a big race, the half marathon in Delhi, which started about 15 years ago. In the early years, there were hardly any women. And the few women who came in ethnic wear and ran. And you look to change now, there's maybe 20% of the runners are women. It's growing. And they're now running in sportswear. So there's a change, there's a shift. I've definitely seen a shift in not just the number of women running, but I'm seeing women athletes who becoming very strong runners. And I happen to know quite a few of them. When I was with the ultra-marathon teams, I met many of the women runners there. And I think they are all, the improvement, I'd say, in the women runners probably is even more pronounced.
Because they're coming from a lower base.
Not just that, but when I start seeing how they're getting closer to world standards in ultra-marathons in particular, the women are getting closer and closer than the men. So there's a huge shift there.
But in India, it's still very few women participating in sports overall. It is changing, but very few women. So here's an ask of you. What about doing, the 7 continents, instead of that, doing 7 states, 7 marathons? I'm sure most of the people here would want to participate in something like that and get those medals which are there. How about that?
I think I've got that.
You've got that. I'm saying set it up for people in India. No, but seriously, we need something like that in India, where it becomes, where it's easier for people to attend, and there's a prestige attached with it, and there's some.
So there are things like in India, there's 4 big races which are organized. People who do the Bombay Marathon, they do 4 races, one in Bangalore, one in Bombay, one in Delhi, and one in Calcutta. And you do all 4 in a year, and you get a slam. So many of us have done that slam a few times. So there is already something like that. This is already happening.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Sir, my question is again on strength training and recovery. So you mentioned at your time there was not much information or guidance available. So do you think over the period of 15, 20 years this field has evolved? And if so, then how?
It's come a long way today. I mean, so when we started running, forget strength training. There was no coaches for running. Now many of the coaches themselves will recommend. They'll help you with strength training, or will recommend somebody who can help you with strength training, nutrition, stretching, and everything, which didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's a sea change. In fact, that is probably. In fact, there's one coach sitting right here, but there's in Bangalore alone, probably at least a dozen coaches today, for running, and they can put you in touch with people for strength training, stretching, and lots of opportunities today to do it.
Okay, now I'm being signaled that we have to close, and I can see a lot more hands up, so I'm so sorry. We're going to have to close, but one final question. What next?
You answered it. No, actually, honestly, I don't have another marathon signed up. The same thing last year this time when we finished the 6 majors. I had not signed up for another thing. I'm sure something will come up, but I have not yet signed
All
up.
right, on that note, watch this space. I'm sure something will come up. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you. Thank you.